Hey there, and welcome to Branded by Amazing. This is episode number 14, and today we're going to talk about our top product failures. And this is Matt Clark, the CEO of Amazing.com.
And I'm Mike McCleary, the Chief Product Officer of Amazing.com. And today is September 21st, and yesterday, September 20th, saw a news article come out about Shopify, e-commerce giant Shopify, who supports all the back-end websites for millions of e-commerce websites, finally obtained something that they haven't been able to, and that is they surpassed Amazon with their number of unique visitors last quarter. Now, it's kind of funny you and I were talking about that because Amazon's one website, Shopify powers millions, and they're pretty proud of the fact that they finally surpassed Amazon, but still nonetheless shows that Shopify, an alternative to Amazon, is definitely making some headways. And I think you have a lot to do with your business on Shopify.
Yeah, I think it kind of shows you the power of both platforms. Now, I own an e-commerce business. We've kind of talked about it a lot in one episode here anyways. Own a coffee brand with a business partner, and we actually applied for 2 years in a row to the Inc. 500 or 5,000 list, and last year, which I believe was the 2020 list, that one we ended up at number 271 was the year before, and the most recent one that came out, which I believe they called the 2021 list, we were actually number 80. So wow. Top 100 fastest growing companies in America, and this is a brand that we've really just been scaling since the beginning of 2019, which I think kind of shows you the power of the stuff that we're talking about here. Is we're applying the same stuff. You know, we do a lot on Shopify. We also sell a chunk on Amazon, but in general, a lot of the strategies are pretty similar, but it kind of shows you the power of this business model. I mean, we're probably one of the fastest growing e-commerce businesses in the world right now, especially in the US, at least according to Inc. magazine, which is pretty cool because we're here on this podcast teaching you all the same stuff that we're applying in that business.
Now, that's a huge success. You know, you guys are selling coffee, doing really well, but people always hear about our successes. What they don't hear about are our failures. I know you and I both, we've talked about this a lot. We have a lot of failures, and it's not always exciting to talk about it. But today we thought we'd talk about what are products that we've tried launching. You and I have done some together. We've done some individually that just didn't take off. And so I actually have a couple here with me. So if you're listening to the podcast, you won't see these, but I'll talk about them. But feel free to check out the link below. We're going to give you a link how to actually watch the YouTube version of this. And you can see the products that Mike have launched and have totally been utter failures. The first one I'll talk about is a flashlight. You know, that's one of the niches that I'm in right now. We sell flashlights and camping lanterns. And we decided at one point, Matt, that we wanted to not only sell this flashlight that looked really, really beautiful, but we thought we'd add in all these other features. We'd add in a power bank feature. We'd make it look really shiny and like a metallic gunmetal on the outside. We even decided, for some reason, to put a glass covering on the end that covered the power button. First bad idea right there. So in order to use this flashlight, people had to take off this end cap in order to actually push the button in order to turn it on. First, probably an idea that wasn't the smartest thing for us to do. Second thing was, even if they were able to open that end cap and turn the power on, it wouldn't work. We decided to go with a slightly cheaper rechargeable battery. Our manufacturer, which we've talked about, great friends with, he actually had access to a battery manufacturer, gave me a great deal on these batteries because they're pretty much like an overstock. We could get them much cheaper, going to help us save a lot of money. What we didn't realize is those batteries are about 2 years old. And with lithium rechargeable batteries, they have a life cycle to them where if you don't use them enough, they actually lose their power completely. And so we had 1,000 of these beautiful looking flashlights. Look like one of the prettiest things you'll ever see out there in the flashlight world. It's called the Titan Rechargeable flashlight and power bank. Got all the units into us here, and then once we tested them out, they only worked for a day or two. Then the batteries completely failed. The batteries inside were not replaceable. Since then, we put in some replaceable ones that makes it easier to take care of an issue like that. But we just realized that we can't even sell these to our customers. We hoped that it was just going to be a percentage of them that were going to fail. So we hired a company that I worked with in the past, test out as many as they could. It was every single one. And even before that, when we were hoping that we were going to be able to sell some of these, we had this other idea. Well, you know what? Maybe they're not the most useful flashlights or power banks in the world. Maybe they'll be as a nice little gift set. So we decided to purchase this little shot glass that's called Limited Edition Dad, because at the time it was spring, and I think it was around 2016 or so. So Father's Day was coming up. So we had this another brilliant idea. We were going to combine these together and actually had the same company testing testing these, getting ready to put the shot glass into the box. So we had this beautiful gift set that was going to be sold to all of these dads out there wanting these products. And then that's before we found out that every single flashlight had failed.
And did you already try to sell the first product?
No, we had not. We were holding off, waiting in our inventory, just kind of, holding off, thinking that, once we have all these tested out, we'll get them shipped over to Amazon. Had in our warehouse.
Yeah, but you already knew some weren't working.
We knew some weren't, but we were still hopeful that, we'd be able to salvage some of these, maybe half of them.
So you're like, well, we don't know if this product's working, but let's double down and add more expenses to this product.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
We were like and part of the problem was Father's Day was approaching. So if we were going to do that, we had to get the order for these shot glasses in before, and then had to line up the company that was testing them. It's a special needs facility right next to our warehouse. So we work them a lot for testing stuff out. It's a great other thing that we do. Maybe we'll talk about that someday. That we already had them all lined up to put all these additional products into there. And then once the report came back from them that every single flashlight failed, all we could do is get rid of these. I have a case of these sitting in my garage. It's got like 20 or 30 of them in there that I just can't get rid of. Because it's a reminder to me of one of my failures. All in all, probably $20,000 right down the tubes.
Yeah. I'm giving you a hard time just because I've been there totally myself. It's like human nature. I think it's like the sunk cost fallacy. That's kind of like a weird way that we think sometimes. It's kind of like, okay, this thing kind of isn't working out, or you're starting to notice some things not working at first. It's like, rationally, you should probably just get rid of it and start back from zero. But then human nature is like, no, we've already put all this time and money into it. It's like, we got to make this thing work. It's like, maybe let's add something else to it. I know we've done it with a lot with like marketing promotions and stuff. It's like, it's not going well at first. The answer is probably not to do it twice as hard. The answer is probably to like do something different. So totally been there before.
I think one of our reasons for trying to salvage it was we thought, what if we just are able to sell some and break even? But then we made this, and I think it was finally at the end, we finally made a smart decision. We decided not to sell them because the damage to our brand and reputation would not have been worth even trying to break even on these.
Yeah, cool. And it looks like you have another product?
Yeah, so next to that, we have another combination product. There's a theme here. This is a bike light / power bank as well. So this thing here, it works great. I'm going to turn this on and shine at the cameras real quick and probably drive our video team crazy for those who are still watching. It was a great product. And it did all types of things that that no single product did at the time. This is probably 5 years ago. So it is a bike light that has rechargeable, replaceable batteries. One lesson learned we incorporate in here. So if the batteries are bad, we replace them. And it also has a power bank function to them. And our thought was, well, bikers are going to love to be able to recharge their cell phone and also have this great bike light using this brand new type of light that didn't exist out there. Well, one of the failures for this one was really just all on me. At the time, we thought that we could really market this as a combo product, like sell it as a power bank and bike light, even the flashlight went out there touting all the different features, when in reality, you and I were kind of talking about this too, people who ride bikes probably just wanted a bike light. And they also might like the additional features of having a power bank, but there was certainly no demand for a tool that did everything out there. And I wish we would have had the tools we have now, like brand analytics, that tells you how many people are searching for that combo. If you go look today, there's no one looking for the combo bike light power bank, which I would have known about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. So what would you have done differently with that one to avoid that for other people?
Yeah, I think what I would have done is focus on the primary function of it, that it is a bike light. It's still a really good product. It still works even after these years. These rechargeable batteries still work in there. I would have sold it as a bike light, and then, like you and I were talking about earlier, I probably would have added in that it did have these additional features, sell them heavy on the bike light, and then make them happy that they got this product and just realize that it comes with these other features they can use and find useful as well. Then maybe you drive demand for that type of product, but certainly focus on the demand that exists, and that was just for a bike light.
Yeah. I guess there's that whole metaphor about like something along the lines of like, it doesn't really matter how fast you can climb a ladder if it's kind of on the wrong wall. Done that sort of thing before too, where it's like you can go, because I mean this product looks cool. I mean it looks great. It's high quality. I was kind of messing with it earlier, but if it's like literally not something people want, then it's like all that time and effort is kind of wasted.
I think we get caught in that a lot. Like things that we think people want. We try to sell those types of products when in reality, it's pretty easy now, as we found. You can find out exactly what people want. If you give them what they want, you're much more likely to be successful. Yeah,
and I think along with that too is like kind of like testing small, which it doesn't sound like you went too crazy with that. So maybe it's like wasn't completely like a bad decision there. Because some people do that kind of thing and they'll put like 50, 60 grand into a product and they're like, oh crap, people don't want this thing. Because for us, one of the failures on the coffee business side, which by the way, the company is Life Boost Coffee, but on that business, we were kind of looking at things and like, it's a physical product business. Like I've been involved in selling digital products, training, software, that kind of thing. I've also been involved lots of e-commerce, selling physical products, and so we're like looking at our margins and stuff, which are not bad, but it was like, okay, we're selling all this physical product stuff. It's like, what would happen if we could get some percentage of all these people buying coffee, literally physical bags of coffee, to buy a digital product? It's like our margins would go through the roof. It's like we could produce so much more profit without necessarily selling more units to more people. And so we kind of surveyed our customers a little bit and we're like, hey, like what kind of main health issue is your biggest concern? And the one that popped up was the most popular was inflammation. And so we're like, and we'd kind of heard in another physical product brand with like kind of a doctor expert guy that they were doing pretty well selling courses through webinars and stuff, like to their e-commerce people. And so we're like, okay, we got a great idea. So we paid this guy we know that's, one of the health experts, and to basically create a course on inflammation for us. And so we fortunately, because I've been through this a million times before, these kind of dumb decisions, I knew I didn't want to like spend a ton of money on this, but we're like, okay, we'll spend like $5,000 on this. And so we spent $5,000 one time, fortunately, on this course. Took a bit of time, had to set up the e-learning thing, integrated with Shopify so that we could offer it as upsells and that kind of thing. And then, we've got a pretty big email list with that business. Like, I don't know what it was at the time, maybe like 60, 70,000 people or something like that. And so we push it out to them, and we know we're selling coffee, different flavors, that kind of thing all day long. So we know how well promotions can go when they sort of are what people want. And so we push this thing out there, and I think we maybe got like 1 or 2 sales to a list of 60,000 people, and the course was only like $47 or something. And so completely bombed. Nobody wanted this thing. And then we also try to offer as an upsell, completely bombed. Like we made way more money offering like a super discounted bag of coffee for like $16 than we did offer, and this is after taking into account the cost of goods sold, than we did offering a $47 purely digital 100% margin product. Like we were better off just selling more coffee. And so that was kind of one of the eye openers for us with Life Boost is, I think it was good that we tested small, but I think that kind of getting too far away from our core business, and also probably like, I think sometimes people find in surveys, they don't really tell you the answer that you're looking for, or maybe you're not asking the right questions. Because I know there's like an example that I read about recently, like, the whole thing when new Coke came out that kind of people gave them a lot of crap about over at Coca-Cola. And, they did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of surveys, and they hired consultants, and everyone said they liked the flavor of this new thing. Completely blew up in their face. They were getting hate mail and everything, and they basically had to switch back to their old formula. So there's no guarantee that, because a lot of people are kind of like, I think it's a little naive. A lot of times people are like, oh, you just survey your customers and that'll tell you all your answers. They'll tell you exactly what products they want. And that's not completely true. And so it was definitely not true in our case.
It sounds like, you definitely, not that you shouldn't always be looking to expand.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got to grow the business, but definitely try to stay what you know well. Like, I think your story, and I think of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Life Boost, it might be the Michael Jordan of the coffee business, but when you go play for the Birmingham Barons in the minor league baseball team, you might not have the same success.
Yeah, exactly. We've done the same thing with some kind of more supplement-related products. Like we at one point tried to sell like a very healthy fish oil kind of product under that brand, because we're like, oh, we could build like a lifestyle brand, kind of like Bulletproof, that has supplements and coffee and everything else. And the performance of selling that versus just selling another flavor of coffee, not even comparable. And so like that's when we kind of realized, okay, we got to stay focused. Let's stay in our lane, best coffee products possible, and just very gradually, if ever, expand from there rather than jumping into all these different kind of products. So last kind of product failure is more on the Amazing side, which that'll be interesting because it's the Amazing's podcast. At one point, we're kind of known for our big program called Amazing Selling Machine that's kind of like start to finish helps people build an e-commerce business focused on Amazon. At one point, we were like, okay, this is a more expensive product because we think that's what it takes to actually teach people everything they need to know, give them all the resources. We're not counting pennies here. Like if you need help from our team, from our mentors, like we're there for you. And so to offer all that, we have to charge a bit of a premium price. But it's like if we charge less, then we feel like we can't deliver the same results and it's just not worth it to us. But at some point, and this was mainly me, I was like, well, I feel like we could probably reach a lot more people if we could do this way cheaper. And so we felt like we knew how to create good courses. And so at one point we decided, or I decided mainly, to completely get rid of Amazing Selling Machine, which is what we were known for, all the traffic, all the sales, all the reputation, everything was built on that, and replace it with a low price course membership. And we were getting courses from all kinds of people, creating some ourselves. and it never sort of met our expectations. We kind of thought that, it was going to make it up in volume, but it just never seemed to be the case. It just wasn't what people really wanted. So
that wasn't entirely you. I was still around at that time. That was late 2016, I believe. Because you and I we were starting to work on another brand that you and I were kind of testing out, and that's when the idea of having this monthly membership came up. We talked about it.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't say no way. It sounded like an interesting thing. Netflix was blowing up at the time, so monthly content subscription services were definitely popular, and we definitely tested it out. And I don't think people disliked the service. I just think there wasn't as much demand as we'd really hoped for it.
Yeah, and I think I think it was done with the best intentions. It was meant to give more value for a lower price, reach more, help more people, and that kind of thing. But it's like with that, it's like a perfect example of like, you may have an idea in your head of what people want, but you don't really ever know until you put it out in the market. And so I would assume that most of your assumptions are going to be wrong. And so if you are completely wrong about your assumptions before you put a new product out there, what's going to happen then? If you will have gotten rid of your entire rest of your business and stuff, like it's going to bring pretty bad things like it did for us. However, you need to try new stuff. And so it's like, whether it's an e-commerce business or any kind of business, you got to keep trying new stuff. So we're talking about our failures, and the answer is not to never try anything new. The answer is to expect there to be a high failure rate and then be able to stomach that and accept that. I mean, like, Jeff Bezos and Amazon and companies like Google, but I think Amazon especially is notorious for this. Like, they try all kinds of stuff, and they do it, at a level of scale because they're such a big company, but they try all kinds of stuff. And if it doesn't work, they kill it. And they try something else, and if it doesn't work, they kill it. And so as long as they see a very high potential reward and a low potential risk relative to their size and sort of the amount of cash that they have, then they're willing to take those bets. And so I feel like you got to keep taking those bets. You just got to make sure they aren't like kind of a bet the house, the company's going to burn down if you do it. That's what I've kind of learned from a lot of these experiences.
I mean, Amazon once had the Amazon phone, right? I mean, I believe that was one of the things we were betting on. And probably no one listening has an Amazon phone right now because it just failed and they pulled the plug.
Yeah. I mean, even a lot of things that they're known for now, like Amazon Prime was just a bet at some point. People thought they were crazy. It was never going to work. And now it's kind of one of the cornerstones of their business. Same thing with their hosting service was also just kind of a bet at some point. So eventually these things turn out. And we've had some, whether it's in Amazing or, LifeBoost or anywhere else, we've had some that are just equally kind of uncertain at the beginning, and they end up kind of adding a ton to the business. So there is a good side of failure here, but we wanted to kind of let you all see some of the mistakes to hopefully avoid.
One of the things that you've taught me, and we use it now at Amazing, is that anytime we're trying something new, set some metrics. First, you got to make sure you're measuring whatever the new product or service or whatever it is, so you can tell whether or not it's going to be a success or a failure. And then set what those metrics are, so you know what would it take for us to consider it a success, and what would it take for us to pull the plug, and so that we don't lose any more that we've already invested in it. And so I think we're a lot smarter at that right now. And if there's one piece of advice, I think everyone should take that away. Definitely we're trying something new, make sure you know what's going to be your metric you're measuring this by, and then determine what's going to be a success, what's going to be a failure, and don't be afraid to pull the plug so that you limit how much you're willing to risk and lose on it.
Yeah, a lot of times if you don't write that stuff down at the beginning, like you'll be kind of way down the road and the thing will be going terribly, and you'll like completely forget why the heck you got into this thing in the first place, or what you thought was going to happen.
End up buying more shot glasses to put into a flashlight, which doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps up today's episode. We'd love to have you subscribe to our podcast. You should be able to subscribe on iTunes and on Spotify. If you have any questions for us, go to Amazing.com/branded, and you can submit questions and we'll answer them in future episodes. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.